Hello fellow tankers, this is Dauntless, and welcome to Scout Guide. For this episode, I'll be showing you guys how to spot on the most iconic map in the game, Malinovka. Now, Malinovka has amazing spotting potential. Probably some of the best spotting games I've ever had have been on this map. And while it is somewhat risky spotting on this map because you do leave yourself vulnerable, there are some more passive locations that you can take that are less risky. Now, the northern base, in my opinion, is better because they have a lot more opportunity and it is safer to take some of the bushes. But the south does have some good locations as well. Again, the north, when I spawn in the north, I'm a lot happier when I'm in my light tank than the south. But again, I will show you the best way I can to spot on both locations. And I'm going to be avoiding the majority of the north eastern corner of the map because, in my opinion, this is where it's at. You're going to get a lot more spotting damage in this field. Yes, there are locations on the hill that you can take and get early spots. Yes, you can sit in this bush right here or right here and get spots, or even alternatively push across this open channelway right here along this little lake and pop up and spot on either side. But again, those areas have a lot less reward factor, and even medium tanks make those plays sometimes. So I'm going to show you guys what you can do in a light tank. Anyway, with that being said, we will get this game started. So the first location I want to show you guys when you spawn on the northern base is just this bush that's coming up right here. Now this bush, while it seems like it's not very far out there, it's an amazing bush because, one, it's massive. You can get right into it and pretty much you can be in a medium tank, you can be in a tank destroyer. As long as you have binoculars or max view range, you will be able to spot a lot of things. As you can see, your view range extends about halfway into the enemy base. And because of that, you can really spot a lot. And even tanks that push where this T-54 is, you'll be able to spot. And obviously right now we have a T-54 and a T-49 pushing across. You know, this T-49 is definitely lighting some of them here, and we are spotting some of them here. But I mean, literally within the first minute, we have about 1,500 spotting damage, make that 1,800. And the nice thing about this bush is that you can sit here for quite a while. It just kind of keeps stacking up without you having to really do anything. I mean, I know that's kind of sad, but the odds of you getting spotted by anything, if you watch my replay I had in my WZ-120 called Crouching Tiger, I did like 13,000 spotting damage with a medium tank, and I pretty much never left this bush once, which is kind of sad but kind of crazy at the same time. This bush also protects you from being lit from things pushing across like this, and you know, once you exhaust this location and you think you're not going to really get much else out of it, you can also duck down and sit in this bush here. Make sure you're low enough, and sitting in this bush here will allow you to get spots on things here. So if you think that there's a medium tank or a tank destroyer camping in this corner, poke around and sit here, and most likely you'll spot him. Once this area is clear, you're actually quite safe to move forward. Now, if there is something here, you're going to definitely get yourself lit, but the goal eventually is to push up into this bush. Now, if there's nothing in the field, you'll be able to push kind of on this side of the bushes and get there safely. But if there's nothing here and there's stuff still on their base, then you definitely want to take the long way around and kind of get yourself situated up into this bush. Alright, so I want to show you one more location when you spawn on the north that is definitely better, and I did point it out. It's that one bush that we have right up here. Now, it's definitely more aggressive, and you can see that this grand final that's sitting in front of me is actually going for the bush as well. Well, he's actually going to take a safer bush a little bit further back, and he's actually going to get himself lit here by anything that's pushing around here. Now, pay really close attention as to how we are getting to this bush. You do not want to push straight ahead through here or even through the bushes, because most likely there's going to be a tank destroyer here, you know, all these tanks that are going to be here, and by doing so you're going to get yourself lit. And it's actually quite normal for a light tank to kind of try to take this bush right here as well and kind of pop up into it. And if you're taking this approach here, you're definitely going to get yourself lit. Now, forewarning, this is a very risky maneuver, taking this bush, because once you do so, you know, Sixth Sense does take 2 seconds to, you know, light up, and if you do catch yourself in this bush and you're lit and you don't realize it, it might not be enough time to react and get out of there, because, you know, you take a shot from a T-30 or an FV-183, God forbid, you know, any of those things, you will die very, very quickly. So again, kind of note and rewatch this if you are struggling with this, but definitely take the edge of these bushes around. And if you're fast enough, you'll be able to beat anything that's coming around here. Now, if a light tank chooses to come through here and jump up on here, which sometimes they do, you will get yourself lit here, and it's very important that you run. But being able to push up here, you want to get into this furthest bush and definitely sit yourself deep enough and turn your tank like this and kind of back up. Get yourself on the right side of the bush, because there's really nothing in this field unless something was to show up like right here. You're not going to get yourself lit, but this allows you to extend your view range to everything that is basically pushing, things that are camping base, and also what's beautiful is that you can spot things that are sitting up here. And this means that over time, you could literally sit here for the entirety of the game as long as you're winning, or even if you're losing, I guess, and just keep getting spots. And you can get 7-8K spot here if you play it right. And obviously I don't have time to show this whole replay, but if you were to sit here for a very, very long time, it just kind of rakes in. It's just kind of a free spotting game. One thing I will say though, if you do manage to get yourself lit at the very beginning of the game and you're getting shot at, your sixth sense goes off, once you're in this bush, use your momentum, kind of pull downhill. Sometimes you can pull forward and hide behind this rock right here and keep yourself safe, but then at that point you want to wait for about 10 seconds until you're unlit and then make your way back around and keep the low ground. But if you find yourself lit here just right at the beginning of the game and you want to just evacuate, what I would do is just duck down here, fall back, and then take the bush that I showed you before this, and that will help you play a little bit safer. And then once you realize the coast is clear, you can move up. But this bush right here and the bush I showed you previously are, in my opinion, the two best bushes on this map, and unfortunately you have to be on the north side to play it. Now this bush right here you can also play from the south base, but it's a lot harder to get here without getting lit, and I'm going to show you right now how you can actually get to it. So anyway, on to the south base. Alright, so for the south base, now the south base, like I mentioned earlier, is a lot riskier to spot on. And to get those really aggressive lights that you want to get, you have to just kind of expose yourself. And there's really no bush that you can sit in, unfortunately, until it's safe enough to move into. What I usually like to do here is push into this little groove right here. And what you can do here is actually quite amazing. Now you can see that this AMX 1375 is sitting in a bush back behind me, and I'll show you how to play that bush in a second. But for now, this is my favorite approach to playing this side of the map. Now if there's 3 artillery on the enemy team, or maybe even 2, I would not advise doing this because it is very risky. But over time, if you sit here and you notice that the arty aren't hitting you and you're still full life, you can actually abuse this location quite a bit. And there's a bush right here that you can kind of pop into too to light things that are over here, as well as peekaboo over here and spot things like the light tank that's sitting in the bush that I showed you how to use earlier. This location can be great for farming damage. And again, you have to be a lot more active. You have to keep moving, give the arty a harder target to hit. And I would avoid coming to this location in American light tanks. I mean, you can if you're a little bit more ballsy, but lower profile tanks with better camouflage value are much harder to hit than those American tanks with giant turrets, because they do kind of stick out quite a bit. French tanks are okay, Soviet light tanks are okay, but again, I would avoid any of the, like the T-49 or the Bulldog, any of those tanks, because it is kind of dangerous to play. And you can sit here for a long time. Eventually, when you realize that you're not being lit anymore, you can move to this location here. Now, if you do get lit, you're going to want to pull around. But in the meantime, when things take shots at you, you will also have a higher chance of spotting them because their camouflage value goes down. Now, right here, I got lit and I took a shot, but I'm able to put one back into the Scorpion. And look, he got lit for shooting at me, and he paid for it with over most of his life and netted me a lot more experience and spotting damage for that. Now at this point you can choose to fall back, but again, I would keep playing until you feel like it's safe, realize that there's really nothing else that can light you here, and then when you feel ready for it, move into this bush right here. Now when you sit into this bush here, you're going to expand your view range even further and hopefully spot more things. Now this is not always the case, so you have to move into it carefully. If there's things again in the field, you're going to want to push into this bush from around this direction. But as you can see, there are tanks that are still here, like this Scorpion, for instance, that could possibly light you. So just, you have to play your audience. I know that that Super Pershing is hiding behind that rock, and so now it's safe for me to approach this bush from the left-hand side. You don't always, there's no concrete way to approach this bush. And I suppose at the very beginning of the game, if you're feeling risky, you could kind of pull the same maneuver and come into this bush from this way, but you do leave yourself to being lit, and it is a very, very risky bush to take in the beginning, because you notice how far away we are from being safe. By the time you try to get around here, you could potentially get yourself killed. So again, I played this bush until I'm safely able to get into it, and until then I play this little hole right here. Alright, so the alternative location from the southern base is probably the worst out of the 4 locations that I'm showing you, but it can have its rewards if you play it right. Now, you really, really have to make sure you position yourself correctly when you take this bush, because I see a lot of players taking this bush incorrectly. I see a lot of times people angle their tank in this direction, or they push themselves into the bush, which is, again, incorrect. You want to expose as little as your tank as possible, and you want to just kind of peek out. You could probably get even lower than this. As long as your turret is peeking over this crest, or your tank is pointing in this direction, you're going to be able to get these spots without getting lit. But again, you are very exposed here, and the reason that you want to sit in this bush here is because you want to counter any light tank that's going to be in this vicinity. Now, a light tank pushing across from here is going to be able to spot you, and again, a light tank like that, lightweight right there, that pushed too far out into the left was able to spot you, but positioning yourself like that gives you the least amount of chance of being lit. And again, if you're feeling aggressive after you take this location, and you feel like you did as much as you can, you're able to move into this next position depending on what you see being lit here. But again, this location is not as rewarding, and it's not as nice as the bush I showed you that you can just sit in on the other side, because you do have a high risk of being lit, and you really have to play kind of semi-aggressively. It's not just sitting still, and you have to really decide when it's time to move and when it's time to, stay. So anyway, guys, that was my guide on how to spot on Malinovka. I know a lot of you probably knew how to play this map, but I just decided to show the best locations and some alternative ones depending on how aggressive you wanted to play. If you play this map right, it's extremely rewarding, but if you don't know what you're doing and kind of YOLO out in the beginning, you could completely waste an amazing round that you could potentially have. So anyway, guys, hopefully you found this replay, or I guess this guide, useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a like down below. And again, I would really appreciate it if you'd share this with your friends that play tanks or your clan members, because it would really help grow my channel faster. And if you haven't subscribed yourself, feel free to do so for more content like this in the future. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.